In the last hour, Michigan's Kobe Bufkin declaring for the NBA draft. Dickinson is transferring. I know Greg Waddell's going to get to this. Greg Waddell just took a shot.
Yeah, hey, somebody find him now. Get him off the roof.
Greg, are you okay? Oh.
Get him off the roof.
No.
Hey, Carter, keep your eye on him.
What will you remember about Kobe Bufkin?
The 23 career games in a Michigan uniform, he played 10 or less minutes.
He's blinking a lot.
Are you concerned about Michigan?
Are you concerned about Greg?
I'm more concerned about Greg than I am Michigan.
Is this concerning for Michigan? Your reaction to this news?
I don't think it's really all that surprising, to be honest. I think the bigger concern that I have is that Michigan had a team where they had potential first-round pick Jett Howard, potential first-round pick Kobe Bufkin, All-American center Hunter Dickinson, and they couldn't make the NCAA tournament. That's the bigger concern that I have. You got that much talent on your roster, you got to dance, RC. You got to dance.
The one thing I think people still, the Jalen Llewellyn injury, we just don't know the impact that had on this team. And I'm not just in the flow, late game situations and everything. We just don't know. He has an ability to make a perimeter shot. They could have used another guy on the floor to help space the floor to make shot. He's a really good distributor of basketball. He could have gotten in the paint to finish and created and made things a little bit easier for Hunter Dickinson. So I don't think we can take that for granted. I'm a big Dougie McDaniels fan, but he was a freshman and got thrown to the Wolves and had to figure it out as the season went along. But one thing he's not is a shooter. He'll develop that part of his game, but the one thing that Hunter Dickinson could have used, and I think Michigan could have used, was another perimeter guy and a pretty good damn defender. And so I don't think we can ever underestimate the impact of losing Jalen Llewellyn.
I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. But at the same time, if you got two NBA players,
right,
and you got an All-American center, you got to make the tournament. So I don't think saying you got to make the NCAA. Don't lose to Western Michigan, right? Find a way not to get 30-pieced by Arizona State, right?
Let me take your UConn Huskies. If I take Newton out of this team, or if I take Jackson off this team, does that affect them?
Well, yeah, but they still make the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
No. I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't. But we don't know what would happen to them during that stretch when they struggled. When we thought the wheels was falling off this thing. Let's just say if one of I'll tell you what Juwan said about Jaden was the leader of that team. I don't know who the leader of UConn's team is. So let's just say for the sake of that.
It's Andre.
If it's okay.
It's Andre.
So let's take him out of it.
We did, and we saw what happened. What happened? They lost 6 out of 8.
But that's my point.
In January.
That's all I'm saying. So you're taking it, and he's out of it, and you lose 6 of 8. If he is not on this team, we saw a small sample size of that. So we can't sit here and tell me, oh, they're definitely in a different. And bullshit, they just lost 6 of 8 without him. So if you remove him for the year, that 6 of 8 goes to 8 or 10 or a little bit longer. They're not in the tournament. So that's the only I'm only making that comparison to say how significant injuries are, because you just said without Jackson in there, they struggle mightily without him. And if you take your leader out of a lineup, particularly the guy as a guard, you can't measure the amount of.
This is the only thing that I would say back to that is let's just say Andre Jackson was done for the year in the middle of December, and UConn, the 6 of 8 slide turned into 12 of 16.
They're not in the tournament.
And they don't make the NCAA tournament.
Right.
I'm still critical of Dan Hurley for having all that talent and not being able to find a way to get them to the dance.
I'm not absolving Juwan from the responsibility. Like no different than Hubert. I mean, T.O. and I talk about these things all the time. It's always the coach's fault. It's always the head coach's fault, no matter what.
They're getting paid money.
They're getting paid the money. Yeah. The buck stops with you. You have full autonomy to make all the decisions of what goes wrong and right. I'm just saying objectively, as far as when you start calling for a guy's job or making it, it's a thin line when your leader and your point guard gets injured on a team that now his backup, like they have Newton backing him up. He's not a true freshman.
Yep.
So if you had a freshman guard backing him up, it's fair to say this.
Well, let's go to UConn last year, right? UConn last year was a 5 seed. R.J. Cole was the point guard.
Yep.
Their backup was Jalen Gaffney, who's now the backup at Florida Atlantic.
Yes.
If he got injured and they had to go to Jalen Gaffney, UConn would have been in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And I still would have said, like, you got to get that group to the tournament. And I think
I don't disagree with you guys on that.
But and
It's
also,
more about-
just to be clear, like,
Yeah, go
I'm not
ahead.
calling for. I'm not saying fire Juwan Howard. That's Greg.
No,
right there
no,
saying.
no.
Yeah, I get
No,
you.
it's-
What I'm saying is, like, you got to be better than that. And now you got this mark on the resume. You have another year like this. Then we got to have a conversation. Does that make sense?
Oh, I get you. I
Like, this
understand.
is, yeah. Greg is in
My
a bad
question,
spot.
my
right now.
question wasn't as much.
Greg's
we
in a
know
bad
you said
way.
it. It's not surprising.
Today's episode of the Field of 68 After Dark is presented by our partners over at Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's Final Four games. In pick'em, all you do is pick whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether it's points or rebounds or assists or all of them combined. If you're like me and you think Adama Sanogo is going to go nuts this weekend, pick higher on his points projection, pick higher on his rebounds projection, maybe throw in a lower on Matt Bradley's scoring totals, a higher on Isaiah Wong, whatever it is that you like. Put them all together, and if you hit them all, then you can win as much as 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured out how to use it. So go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, that's FIELD, to get a 100% deposit match up to $100.
I would say this, though. Like, now they've got some real roster management to do. Can it be done? Of course it can, but they've really... The state of
wanna do
Michigan, the state of Michigan basketball heading into next year, they're not a top 25 team.
You don't know that.
We don't know
Right
what it's
now-
going to look
Yeah,
like.
Right now,
no.
there's no shot you'd put them in a way too early top
Well,
25. What do they have?
Here's the thing too, and I want to point this out
It
because
could be one, but not
sometimes we've been talking about, well, they have 2 draft picks and Hunter Dickinson. Well, let's keep in mind too, like that roster didn't fit each other very well, and I want to address the draft picks thing. Just because they're draft picks doesn't make them good college players.
And
The
just because
draft
the draft
picks are
picks, T.O., don't
potential-
make them perennial NBA guys either.
That's right.
Getting drafted at the 50th pick, yeah, you get drafted. It sounds good.
Yeah, it
And
sounds
you get a
good.
cup of coffee, and then what?
Yeah, sound good, but like here's the thing,
I
like
could use a cup of coffee.
that roster didn't fit each other very
coffee right
well.
now.
And it could be something to where, like, Hunter Dickinson leaving, maybe Juwan could do something that he wanted to do with a more athletic 5 that can rim protect and get lobs. Like, we're going to be able to see the kind of roster that he puts together. They already added Namari Burnett from Alabama, who's a former McDonald's All-American that struggled to kind of get things rolling. You're going to see what kind of coach he is this offseason because there's not that centerpiece that Hunter Dickinson is. He doesn't have to build around one particular player. He can build around what he wants to do as a coach. And I don't know that that's for us to say, well, he should have made the tournament. He's got 2 NBA players. That doesn't mean they're good or great college players. Jed Howard could score. Did he do stuff that was conducive to winning? I would say no. Like, he would score 30, but defensively he
How
didn't
else
guard
did he
anybody.
impact the game?
Huh?
To your point, how else did he impact the
That's
game
right.
when he wasn't making shots?
That's right. And older players that have that experience, they were different. Like, did he do winning things? Not necessarily. So to say somebody has 2 or 3 NBA players doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win games.
Great point. You could be a great individual talent. Doesn't mean it's for the betterment of a team.
Yeah, and the NBA right now is potential over production anyway.
Always.
So I think people need to understand that portion too. Juwan, it's obvious he can coach the X's and O's. Roster management, after he inherited Beeline's roster, that's been a growing point. Not that he can't do it. He's had to build around Hunter, which is fine. But now we're going to see what he's able to come up with during this offseason where there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah, and to be clear, they absolutely could have a top 25 caliber team next year. But on Monday and Tuesday, when these way too early rankings, and we can talk about how much those mean and how little they mean, I get that. But I don't know how today you could sit there and say that they would be included in there, meaning Michigan, because honestly, this is significant news. I mean, Hunter Dickinson going in the transfer portal is massive, massive news for the college basketball landscape because you're talking about an All-American talent. When you think about possible landing spots, what pops in your head?
Well, first and foremost, I think that he is the single most accomplished transfer that we've ever seen in college basketball. I don't think there's ever been a transfer. He's a two-time All-American, a dude that put up the numbers that he's put up. I don't think we've ever seen someone as talented as him or as accomplished as him as a junior transfer. Now, places where I think that he'll thrive, I think that he would average 22 and 12 with Eddie Cooley at Georgetown. Is that crazy to say? Eddie Cooley loves having those big guys that can rebound, that can post up, they can get touches. If he can get Nate Watson to 16 and 6, I think he can get Hunter Dickinson to 22 and 12.
Yeah. If he doesn't go back to Michigan, I think Georgetown and Kansas would be two fits that I see that fit him, his style of play, that he can just slide in and seamlessly and play with guys and have a high production. His numbers wouldn't drop.
That was the other one that I was going to say. It's Kansas.
Traditional big man. You want the ball close to the bucket, he'll find you a way. Bill Self, I'm talking about, will find Hunter Dickinson a way. That one makes a lot of sense. And like you said, what Cooley was able to do with Nate Watson, who's nowhere near the same level of skill that Hunter Dickinson is. Not the passer, not the scorer, not the shooter. Still got 16 and 6. Nate Watson was a very good college player, not in the same boat as Hunter Dickinson.
And let's call it what it is. Hunter Dickinson is a DMV guy.
Yep.
right.
He has been very vocal about the fact that he is not a big fan of Maryland and the fact that he was not recruited by Mark Turgeon. I do not see him going to another Big Ten school. I do not see him going to Maryland, which is why Georgetown is one of those obvious places. Real quick, TORC, you guys have coached, you guys have played, you guys have been in the grassroots system, you understand how this works. He played for Takeover, Nike School. Played for Michigan, Jordan School. Transfers to Kansas, Adidas School. Does that work? Can that happen? Is that going to piss people off? Like talk to me about the dynamics and how the politics.
I don't think that matters at this point. I think the objective for him is he's thinking, how close can I get to winning and playing professional basketball? And I don't think it matters. I mean, playing something and being able to show he can play at the next level, it has to be it. But the other thing is how much is he going to get NIL? We're kidding ourselves if we don't think that that's just part of what this is.
Major bag.
And so when you get that bag, you don't care where it comes from. Nike, Adidas, Diodor, you name
Puma.
it. I don't care where it comes from.
Way of Wade.
The Benjamin Franklins don't have any. They don't come with a sponsorship of a Nike shoe with them. So I don't think that matters to him at all.
Payless shoe store?
Yeah, he doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter where it
Doesn't
comes
matter.
from. Where would you go if you were
The
him?
Benjamins don't have a Nike check.
Yeah, they don't have a Nike check.
Where would you go if you were Hunter
don't have a
Dickinson? What
swoosh
would
on
you
them.
do?
I would take a hard look at Kansas. It depends on how much he wants to be closer to his family.
Yes,
That's a huge
exactly.
thing. And here's the thing: Hunter's going to make money no matter where Hunter goes. It might be $100,000, $200,000 difference. He's going to make a lot of money. It depends on how bad he wants to be closer to the DMV. Both make sense. He's going to have success at both spots in two really quality leagues. Those were the two I would wonder about. And he might even still go back to Michigan, as Aunt Randolph alluded to.